The morning sky over New York changed forever when the ships appeared. Captain Jake Morrison was drinking his coffee at the Space Command Center when the alarm started screaming. Through the massive windows, he watched as dark shapes blotted out the sun. The alien vessels were huge, each one bigger than a city block, floating silently above the earth like metal clouds. Jake dropped his coffee cup and ran to the communication center. Admiral Lisa Hayes was already there, her face pale as she stared at the radar screens. Red dots covered every monitor, showing alien ships over every major city on Earth. London, Tokyo, Moscow, Berlin, they were everywhere at once. How many? Jake asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. Over 200 ships, Hayes replied. They appeared out of nowhere, no warning, no communication. They just showed up. The first message came an hour later. A voice spoke, in perfect English, through every television, radio, and computer on Earth. The voice was cold and mechanical, clearly coming from some kind of translation machine. People of Earth, the voice said. We are the Galactic Hegemony. We represent 12 advanced species who rule this part of the galaxy. Your planet has been chosen to provide workers for our great empire. Jake felt his stomach drop. Workers. They wanted slaves. The voice continued. You will be sorted based on your abilities. Strong humans will work in our asteroid mines. Smart humans will process data for our computers. The rest will grow food on our agricultural worlds. This is not a request. This is your new reality. Admiral Hayes grabbed the emergency communication system. This is Admiral Hayes of the Earth Defense Force. We demand to speak with your leaders about terms of negotiation. The response came immediately. There are no negotiations. You are a primitive species. You will serve, or you will die. You have 1 week to prepare your population for transport. Jake watched as Hayes tried again and again to establish diplomatic contact. Each time, the aliens gave the same cold response. They saw humans as nothing more than animals to be put to work. On the third day, the aliens decided to show their power. 3 Earth Defense Force ships approached the largest alien vessel over New York. Jake was piloting the lead ship, his hands steady on the controls despite his racing heart. Remember, Admiral Hayes said over the radio, we're here to talk, not fight. But the aliens had different plans. As soon as the human ships came within range, beams of blue light shot out from the alien vessel. The beams didn't destroy the ships. Instead, they simply turned off all the electronics. Jake watched helplessly as his controls went dead and his ship began falling toward the ocean below. Emergency parachutes deployed automatically, saving the crews, but the message was clear. The aliens could disable any human technology whenever they wanted. Earth's most advanced warships were toys compared to alien science. The invasion began the next day. Smaller alien ships landed in major cities around the world. Jake watched the news reports with growing horror. The aliens wore strange armor and carried weapons that looked like glowing sticks. But they didn't need to fight. Their technology was so advanced that human weapons barely scratched them. The beings themselves were terrifying. The leaders were tall reptiles with scales like armor and eyes like yellow fire. They called themselves the Vorthak. Behind them came creatures that looked like walking crystals, their bodies reflecting light in rainbow patterns. These were the Nexari. There were others too. Beings that looked like giant insects, creatures made of what seemed like living metal, and things that Jake's mind could barely understand. Supreme Overlord Zethkar appeared on every screen in the world to deliver the final terms. He was a massive Vorthak with scars across his scaled face and teeth like daggers. Your pathetic resistance is over, he said in that same mechanical voice. We have conquered thousands of worlds. Your species is nothing special. You are weak, primitive, and barely evolved from the animals you once were. Jake clenched his fists as Zethkar continued. We will begin sorting your population tomorrow. Do not resist or we will simply kill you all and find another world of slaves. But even as the aliens set up processing centers in every major city, something was stirring among the human population. Jake met with Dr. Alex Turner, a quantum physicist who had been studying the alien technology from the disabled ships. There's something strange about their weapons, Turner said, showing Jake some readings on his tablet. They're incredibly advanced, but they seemed to have gaps in their knowledge. It's like they skipped over certain types of technology entirely. Commander Kate Phillips joined their secret meeting in the basement of the destroyed Pentagon. She had been organizing small groups of soldiers and civilians who refused to report to the alien processing centers. My teams have been watching the aliens, Phillips reported. They rely heavily on their machines and computers. I've only seen a few actual alien soldiers in each city. Most of their forces seem to be automated. Turner nodded excitedly. That matches what I'm seeing in their technology. They've developed amazing energy weapons and force fields, but their basic understanding of atomic physics is actually behind ours in some ways. Jake looked at his two companions. Around them, the world was falling apart. Millions of humans were being loaded onto transport ships and taken to alien worlds. Families were being separated. Children were crying for parents they would never see again. But something was growing in Jake's chest. It wasn't fear anymore. It was anger. They think we're just dumb animals, he said slowly. They think because their ships are bigger and their weapons are fancier, we'll just roll over and accept slavery. Phillips smiled grimly. They don't know humans very well, do they? Turner was already pulling up files on his computer. I've been thinking about this all wrong. Instead of trying to match their technology, maybe we should focus on what they don't understand about us. Jake stood up, his decision made. They want workers? Fine. But they're going to get something else, entirely. They're going to get fighters. Outside, alien ships continued loading human cargo for transport to distant worlds. But in hidden bases and secret meetings across Earth, something new was being born. The aliens had made one crucial mistake. They assumed that superior technology meant automatic victory. They were about to learn that humans had never been very good at accepting defeat. 6 months had passed since the aliens arrived, and the world looked very different. Empty cities stood like graveyards under alien patrol ships. Most humans had been taken away to work on distant worlds, but not all of them. Jake Morrison crouched behind a burned-out car watching an alien transport ship land in what used to be Central Park. The ship's doors opened, and human prisoners stumbled out in chains. Jake counted 23 people, all looking thin and tired. Among them, he spotted a familiar face, Dr. Sarah Kim, an engineer who had worked on Earth's space program. Jake spoke quietly into his radio. Target confirmed. Rescue team, move in. The attack came from 3 directions at once. Jake's team had learned that alien patrols followed predictable patterns, and their sensors had blind spots that human fighters could exploit. The rescue took less than 5 minutes. The alien guards never knew what hit them. As Jake helped Dr. Kim to safety, she grabbed his arm with surprising strength. You have to know, she whispered urgently. The mining colonies, they're killing people through overwork, and the agricultural worlds are even worse. They're working children to death. Jake felt that familiar anger building in his chest again. The aliens weren't just enslaving humans, they were murdering them. Deep underground in the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Alex Turner was making discoveries that would change everything. The hidden laboratory had been built in an old missile silo, far from alien sensors. Turner worked day and night taking apart pieces of alien technology that Jake's teams had captured. Kate, come look at this, Turner called to Commander Phillips, who was planning the next series of raids. Phillips walked over to Turner's workbench, where he had an alien energy weapon completely disassembled. What am I looking at? See this component here? Turner pointed to a crystal that glowed with soft blue light. This generates their energy shields. I've been running tests and I think I found a weakness. He pulled up data on his computer screen. Our old radar systems from the 1990s generate electromagnetic pulses at very specific frequencies. The alien shields are designed to stop energy, weapons and projectiles, but they weren't built to handle these particular radio waves. Phillips leaned closer. Are you saying our ancient radar can break their shields? Not break them, Turner grinned. Overload them. If we hit their ships with the right frequency, their own shield generators will tear themselves apart. While Turner worked on weapons, Phillips was building an army. She had established contact with resistance groups on every continent. In South, America, General Matt Rodriguez led over 10,000 fighters. In Asia, Commander Liu Zhang had organized factory workers into guerrilla units. Even in Australia, where the aliens had thought the population was too scattered to resist, Captain Ben Murphy was causing serious damage to their supply lines. The resistance was growing, but they needed better intelligence about alien capabilities. That's when Amy Foster volunteered for the most dangerous mission yet. Amy had been a test pilot before the invasion. Now she was part of Jake's rescue team, and she had a crazy idea. "I want to steal an alien ship," she announced during their weekly planning meeting. Jake nearly choked on his water. "You want to what?" "Think about it," Amy continued. "We've been fighting these things for months, but we don't really understand how their technology works. If I can steal one of their smaller ships, Turner can figure out how to build better weapons." Phillips looked doubtful. "Amy, their ships are probably locked down tighter than a bank vault." "Maybe," Amy admitted. "But I've been watching their pilots. They're not actually that good at flying. I think their computers do most of the work, and computers can be tricked." The plan was insane, but it worked. Amy and a small team infiltrated an alien supply base during a shift change. Using captured alien uniforms and some creative bluffing, Amy managed to board a small scout ship. The alien pilot never suspected anything until Amy's team was already inside. The stolen ship provided Turner with a treasure trove of information. "This is incredible," he said, examining the navigation computer. "Look at this star map. It shows every galactic hegemony world within 50 light-years of Earth." Jake studied the map. Red dots marked alien worlds, while blue lines showed their supply routes. "How many ships do they have in this area?" Turner did some calculations. "Based on what I'm seeing here, maybe 300 combat ships total, but most of them are spread out across their empire. There are probably only 50 ships within quick range of Earth." "50 ships is still a lot," Phillips pointed out. "Not if we can level the playing field," Turner replied. He pulled up another screen showing the stolen ship's communication system. "I've been monitoring their messages. The aliens are getting frustrated with our resistance. But here's the interesting part. They keep referring to us as an anomaly." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Anomaly? Apparently most species they conquer surrender completely after the initial demonstration of force. They've never faced a species that keeps fighting after being defeated." Amy laughed bitterly. "They really don't understand humans, do they? Their resistance got its first major victory 2 weeks later. Using Turner's research on shield frequencies, Rodriguez's forces in South America successfully brought down an alien patrol ship. The vessel crashed into the Amazon rainforest, and human fighters swarmed over the wreckage before alien rescue teams could arrive. The victory proved that human technology could hurt the aliens, but it also brought retaliation. Supreme Overlord Zethkar appeared on screens across Earth with a new message. "Your continued resistance is pointless and annoying," the scaled alien leader declared. "For every ship you destroy, we will execute 100 human prisoners. For every base you attack, we will destroy one of your cities." Jake watched the broadcast with growing fury. The aliens weren't just threatening to kill prisoners, they were threatening to commit genocide. But Zethkar had made a mistake. Instead of scaring humans into submission, the threats only made them angrier. Phillips reported that recruitment for the resistance had doubled overnight. Turner's weapons research was getting support from scientists all over the world. Even civilians who had been trying to stay out of the war were now volunteering to help. Jake stood in the command center, looking at reports from resistance cells on every continent. The aliens had superior technology and controlled the skies, but humans controlled the ground. More importantly, humans were learning to turn the aliens' own technology against them. "They wanted slaves," Jake said to Phillips and Turner. "Quiet, obedient workers who would do what they were told." Turner smiled grimly. "Instead, they got us." Phillips was already planning the next phase of operations. Rodriguez reports that his people have captured enough alien weapons to arm 5,000 fighters. Liu's factory workers have figured out how to mass-produce our own versions of their energy cells. And Murphy's teams in Australia just took out their biggest supply depot in the southern hemisphere. Jake looked at the tactical displays showing resistance activities across the globe. Red markers showed successful raids, blue markers showed captured alien equipment, and green markers showed liberated humans. The map was covered in human victories. They made one crucial mistake, Jake said. They assumed that having better weapons meant they would automatically win. Amy joined them, fresh from another successful rescue mission. The prisoners I brought back today told me something interesting. The aliens on the mining worlds are starting to worry. Word is spreading through their empire that Earth is not as conquered as they thought. Jake felt something new stirring in his chest. For months it had been anger and determination. Now it was becoming something else entirely. It was hope. Let them worry, he said. We're just getting started. Dr. Elena Martinez had spent 3 months studying the alien prisoner in the secret laboratory beneath Denver. The captured Vorthak commander was named Sektar, and he was nothing like what Elena had expected from humanity's cruel overlords. You are confused beings, Sektar said in his broken English, refusing to use the translation device. Your species makes no sense to the hegemony. Elena looked up from her notes. She had been documenting everything about alien biology and psychology. What do you mean? Other species, when they see our ships, they understand. They know they cannot win. They accept their place in the galaxy. Sektar's yellow eyes showed genuine puzzlement. But humans, you see defeat and become more dangerous. Elena had been thinking about this same question. She had studied every alien species in the hegemony through captured data files. The Vorthak had been warriors once, but genetic modification, over thousands of years, had made them efficient administrators instead. The Nexari had been explorers, but now they were content to manage their crystal worlds without seeking new challenges. Your people removed the fight from their hearts, Elena told Sektar. You made them peaceful and productive, but you also made them weak. Sektar nodded slowly. The hegemony learned that aggressive species destroy themselves with war, so we changed ourselves to be calm and reasonable. But humans never had anyone to change us, Elena realized. We're still the same aggressive species that conquered our own planet. While Elena studied alien psychology, General Rodriguez was putting that human aggression to work. His forces had grown to over 30,000 fighters, and they controlled most of South America. But Rodriguez had bigger plans than just fighting a guerrilla war. Operation Phoenix, Rodriguez announced to his commanders during a meeting in the ruins of Rio de Janeiro. We're going to take this war to the aliens' homeworlds. Colonel Martinez, no relation to Elena, studied the battle plans. General, we don't have ships that can reach their worlds. Not yet, Rodriguez smiled. But Ryan Clark and his team have been working on that problem. Ryan Clark had been an automotive engineer before the invasion. Now he was humanity's chief spacecraft designer, working with technology stolen from alien ships. In hidden factories across the world, human workers were building something the galaxy had never seen before. The aliens build their ships for efficiency and comfort, Clark explained to Jake Morrison and Commander Phillips. Long-range cruising, minimal energy consumption, smooth rides. But we don't need comfort. We need to get to their worlds fast and hit them hard. Jake looked at the blueprints for humanity's first faster-than-light warship. It was ugly compared to the sleek alien vessels, but it was built for one purpose only, carrying human weapons to alien worlds. How fast can it go? Phillips asked. Faster than anything in the hegemony fleet, Clark replied proudly. We stripped out everything except engines, weapons, and life support. No luxury quarters, no diplomatic facilities, no scientific equipment. Just a ship designed to deliver Marines to enemy planets. The first test of human interstellar capability came sooner than expected. Jake was leading a raid on an alien communication center when they intercepted a priority message from Supreme Overlord Zethkar to all hegemony worlds. Dr. Turner decoded the message within hours. Jake, you need to see this. The message was simple and terrifying. Execute all human prisoners immediately. The Earth species has proven too dangerous for continued slavery. Jake felt his blood turn to ice. There were millions of human prisoners on alien worlds throughout the hegemony. If Zethkar's order was carried out, it would be the largest genocide in human history. How long do we have? Jake asked. Turner checked the transmission timestamps. The message was sent yesterday. It takes about a week for ships to reach the closest prison worlds. Then we have less than a week to do something impossible, Phillips said grimly. Not impossible. Rodriguez's voice came over the communication system from South America. Difficult. There's a difference. Within 24 hours, every resistance cell on Earth was working toward the same goal. Turner's teams pushed their captured alien ships beyond safe limits to reach prison worlds before the execution orders could be carried out. Clark's new human warships launched their first missions with crews that had barely finished training. Amy Foster volunteered to pilot the first human attack on an alien world. Her target was Kepler Station, an asteroid mining facility where over 50,000 human prisoners were being worked to death. Remember, Jake told her over the radio as her ship prepared for faster-than-light travel, you're not just rescuing prisoners. You're sending a message to the entire galaxy. Amy's mission was successful beyond anyone's expectations. The alien defenders at Kepler Station had never faced an attack from a species they considered defeated. When Amy's ship appeared without warning and began destroying mining facilities, the Vorthak commanders panicked. But the real shock came when Amy didn't just rescue the human prisoners. She armed them with captured alien weapons and helped them take control of the entire asteroid belt around the system. 50,000 human slaves became 50,000 human fighters in the space of 6 hours. The pattern repeated across dozens of worlds. Human rescue missions turned into human occupations as liberated prisoners joined the fight, instead of fleeing back to Earth. Dr. Martinez's research had been correct. Humans were psychologically incapable of staying defeated. Sektar watched, the reports coming into his cell with growing amazement. Impossible, he muttered. Species do not behave this way. Human species do, Elena replied. She had been monitoring communications from across the hegemony, and the reports were all the same. Wherever humans appeared, they didn't just fight, they won. More importantly, they turned every victory into a base for the next attack. The Vorthak Empire called an emergency session of the Hegemony Council. Supreme Overlord Zethkar addressed the representatives of all 12 species via holographic communication. The Earth situation has become a crisis, Zethkar admitted. Human forces now control 17 star systems. They are not following any recognized patterns of warfare. The Nexari representative, a glowing crystal being named Velan, projected confusion through her translator. Explain their behavior. Species fight for territory or resources. What do humans want? Revenge, Zethkar replied. They want to hurt us because we hurt them. This is not rational behavior for a spacefaring civilization. But humans weren't interested in being rational. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of humanity's first captured alien dreadnought, looking at star maps that showed human forces advancing on multiple fronts. Status report, Jake called to his officers. Rodriguez has secured the Tau Ceti system, reported communications officer Lisa Park. Clark's engineering teams have converted 3 more alien shipyards to human production, and Amy Foster reports that the liberated prisoners at Vega are ready to launch their own raids. Philip studied the tactical display. The aliens are starting to pull back from their outer colonies. They're concentrating their forces around their core worlds. Turner looked up from his analysis station. That's actually bad news for them. Human industrial capacity grows exponentially when we have access to raw materials. Every world we take makes us stronger. Jake nodded. The aliens had made their biggest mistake when they tried to use human slaves for mining operations. Humans were very good at turning industrial equipment into weapons manufacturing. What's our next target? Jake asked. Phillips highlighted a system on the star map. Arcturus Prime. It's the main administrative center for this sector of the hegemony. If we take it, we cut their command structure in half. How many ships do they have defending it? 47 capital ships, Phillips replied. The largest concentration of alien forces we've seen yet. Jake smiled. Good. Time to show them what happens when humans stop holding back. Elena Martinez watched the preparations for the assault on Arcturus Prime with mixed feelings. The war was escalating beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen, and humans were winning by being more vicious than anyone thought possible. Your species frightens the hegemony, Sektar told her. They do not understand beings who become stronger through conflict. Then they shouldn't have started a conflict with us, Elena replied. She looked at the reports from human-occupied worlds. Wherever humans took control, they didn't just establish military bases. They built factories, shipyards, and training facilities. Every victory made the next victory easier. The aliens had wanted slaves. Instead, they had created something the galaxy had never seen before, a human war machine that grew stronger with every battle, and Jake Morrison was just getting started. Operation Phoenix launched on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the captured alien dreadnought New Freedom and watched as human fleets moved into position across 6 different star systems simultaneously. All units report ready, Commander Phillips announced from her position at the tactical station. Around them, the bridge hummed with activity as human crews operated alien technology with deadly efficiency. Execute, Jake ordered. Across the galaxy, humanity struck back with coordinated fury. Dr. Turner's satellite network, now expanded to dozens of star systems, sent overload signals to every alien ship within range. The results were spectacular and terrible. Alien vessels that had ruled the galaxy for centuries suddenly found their own technology turning against them. Amy Foster led the assault on the Vega shipyards, commanding a fleet of 30 human-modified vessels. The alien defenders had expected a direct attack, but Amy had learned to think like a human fighter instead of an alien administrator. Come in low, under their sensor grid, Amy ordered her pilots. Remember, we're not here to play fair, we're here to win. The attack on Vega lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the largest alien shipyard in the sector was in human hands, along with over 200 partially completed hegemony warships. Meanwhile, General Rodriguez's forces struck at Centauri Station, the main prisoner processing facility for this part of the galaxy. Rodriguez had a personal interest in this target. Intelligence reports suggested that Admiral Hayes, captured during the initial invasion, was being held there. The battle for Centauri Station was vicious. The alien defenders, realizing they were facing total war, fought with desperation they had never shown before. But desperation was something humans understood better than any species in the galaxy. Breach their defenses at Grid 7 Alpha. Rodriguez ordered his assault teams. Remember, we have prisoners in there. Watch your fire. The rescue of Admiral Hayes became a symbol for human resistance across the galaxy. When Rodriguez's Marines found her in a prison cell, weak but alive, she had only one question. How many of our people are fighting back? Hayes asked. All of them, Rodriguez replied. But the most important battle of Operation Phoenix took place in space near Jupiter, where Ryan Clark had established humanity's main shipbuilding facility. Supreme Overlord Zethkar himself led a massive alien fleet to destroy what he called the source of the human plague. Clark had been expecting this attack. For months he had been preparing Jupiter's moons for the largest space battle in human history. Zethkar's coming with everything he has, Clark reported to Jake over the interstellar communication system. 137 capital ships. He wants to end this war with one decisive blow. Can you hold them? Jake asked. Clark looked at his defenses, hidden weapons platforms built into Jupiter's moons, automated defense systems using alien technology powered by human fusion reactors, and most importantly, over 300 human volunteers in small, fast attack ships. We're about to find out, Clark replied. The Battle of Jupiter lasted 18 hours and changed the course of the war. Zethkar's massive fleet had overwhelming firepower, but human defenders used tactics that the aliens couldn't understand or counter. Instead of meeting the alien fleet in traditional battle lines, human fighters swarmed around the enemy ships like angry insects. They targeted power systems, communication arrays, and life support facilities. When alien ships tried to retreat, humans followed them and continued the attack. The decisive moment came when Clark himself piloted a small fighter directly into the bridge of Zethkar's flagship. The explosion that followed decapitated the hegemony's military command, and sent the surviving alien ships fleeing in panic. But Clark's sacrifice revealed something that changed everything. In the wreckage of the alien command ship, Dr. Turner discovered the hegemony's most closely guarded secret. "Jake, you need to see this," Turner transmitted from the salvage operation. "I found their central intelligence database." Turner's discovery was staggering. The galactic hegemony wasn't the ancient, powerful empire they claimed to be. They had risen to power only 800 years ago, after the last truly aggressive species in the galaxy had destroyed itself in a massive war. Every species in the hegemony was modified, Turner explained during an emergency command meeting. Genetic engineering, psychological conditioning, even surgical alterations. They removed the ability to fight effectively from their entire population. Elena Martinez, monitoring the discussion from her research facility, added crucial context. "That explains why they're so bad at actual warfare. They've spent centuries conquering species that surrendered immediately. They never learned how to fight an enemy that fights back." The implications were enormous. The hegemony controlled hundreds of worlds and trillions of beings, but they had no military experience against a truly aggressive opponent. More importantly, the database revealed the locations of every hegemony world and the defensive capabilities of each system. Admiral Hayes, recovered from her imprisonment and back in command, studied the intelligence data with growing amazement. According to this, most of their worlds have no significant military presence at all. They rely entirely on the threat of overwhelming force from their main fleets. "And we just destroyed their main fleet," Jake pointed out. Phillips was already planning the next phase of operations. "If this intelligence is accurate, we could take dozens of systems before they can organize any meaningful resistance." But the real breakthrough came from Amy Foster, who had been interrogating captured alien officers from the Vega battle. "They're terrified," she reported. "I've never seen anything like it. These beings have lived their entire lives in a peaceful empire where conflict is resolved through negotiation and compromise. The idea of total warfare is completely foreign to them." Jake looked around the command center at his officers and allies. In less than 2 years, humanity had gone from enslaved victims to the most feared military force in the galaxy. But he was beginning to understand that the war was already over. The aliens just didn't know it yet. "They made one mistake," Jake said slowly. "They assumed that because they had removed the fight from their own people, they could control any species they encountered." Turner nodded. "But humans evolved differently. We survived by being the most dangerous predators on our planet. When they threatened us, they didn't make us submit. They made us angry." The proof of Turner's theory came in the weeks following Operation Phoenix. Human fleets spread across the galaxy like wildfire, meeting little resistance as they captured world after world. The hegemony's member species, bred for thousands of years to avoid conflict, simply couldn't adapt to the reality of total war. On the crystalline homeworld of the Nexari, human Marines landed to find the local government waiting with surrender, documents already prepared. The insectoid Zephyrians abandoned their core worlds entirely rather than face human assault troops. Even the proud Vorthak began evacuating their frontier colonies. Elena Martinez found herself in an unexpected position as humanity's chief xenologist, tasked with understanding and managing dozens of alien species. "They're not evil," she reported, to the human command structure. "They're just broken. Centuries of genetic modification have left them incapable of the kind of sustained aggression necessary for effective warfare." But not all aliens were ready to surrender. A group of Vorthak hardliners, led by a general named Kethvar, attempted to organize resistance against the human advance. They gathered the remnants of several alien fleets and prepared to make a final stand at Arcturus Prime, the sector capital. Jake Morrison, now promoted to fleet admiral, led the human response personally. But when his ships arrived at Arcturus Prime, they found something unexpected. The alien fleet was there, but they weren't preparing for battle. Instead, they were evacuating civilians from the planet below. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Human Liberation Fleet," Jake broadcast on all frequencies. "Explain your intentions." General Kethvar responded immediately. "We wish to surrender our forces and request safe passage for civilian populations." Jake was quiet for a long moment. This wasn't the final battle he had been expecting. What are your terms? We have no terms, Kethavar replied. You have demonstrated that continued resistance will only result in more death. The hegemony formally surrenders all claims to Earth and its colonies. Phillips looked at Jake in amazement. They're surrendering the entire war? Jake studied the alien ships on his tactical display. Hundreds of vessels that could have fought to the death were instead protecting civilian transports. It was exactly what Elena had predicted. These beings were simply incapable of the kind of ruthless warfare that had made humans victorious. General Kethavar, Jake transmitted, your surrender is accepted. But I have one question. Why did you try to enslave us in the first place? The alien general's response would haunt Jake for the rest of his life. Because we thought you were like us. We thought you would see our power and choose to submit rather than fight. We did not understand that some species choose to fight even when they cannot win. Jake looked around his bridge at the human crew members who had sacrificed everything to reach this moment. You were right about one. 5 years after the surrender at Arcturus Prime, Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the ruins of what had once been the Galactic Hegemony's capital city. The massive crystal spires that had once reached toward the stars now lay shattered across the landscape like broken dreams. Final report from the Outer Rim sectors, Commander Phillips said, approaching Jake with a data tablet. The last hegemony holdouts have been eliminated. General Rodriguez confirms that the Tau Omega system is now under human control. Jake nodded, but didn't smile. Victory had come at a price that sometimes kept him awake at night. How many worlds total? 347 star systems, Phillips replied. Over 2,000 inhabited planets, the largest empire in recorded galactic history. But Jake knew the numbers didn't tell the whole story. What had begun as a rescue mission to save enslaved humans had become something much darker. Once humanity had tasted victory, they had found it impossible to stop. Dr. Elena Martinez joined them, looking tired and older than her years. As humanity's chief administrator for alien affairs, she had spent the last 5 years trying to manage the remnants of dozens of conquered species. The Nexari delegation is asking again about establishing an independent colony in the Andromeda Spiral, Elena reported. They're willing to share all their technological databases in exchange for permission to leave this galaxy entirely. Denied, Jake replied automatically. All former hegemony species remain under human oversight until further notice. Elena looked troubled. Jake, they're not asking to rebel. They just want to live in peace somewhere far away from us. And in 100 years they'll be back with bigger ships and better weapons, Phillips added. We've seen this pattern before. Elena started to argue, but Jake cut her off with a gesture. He walked to the edge of the observation platform and looked out over the city below. Humans in military uniforms moved through the streets directing the reconstruction efforts. Alien workers cleared debris under the watchful eyes of human supervisors. It looked very much like what the hegemony had done to Earth, except with the roles reversed. Dr. Alex Turner had died 2 years earlier during the final assault on the Vorthak homeworld. His last words had been a warning. We're becoming the thing we fought against. Jake had dismissed it then as the rambling of a dying man. Now he wasn't so sure. The transformation had been gradual but undeniable. What started as liberation had become occupation. What began as rescue missions had evolved into conquest campaigns. And what began as self-defense had become something that looked very much like genocide. The hegemony species weren't just defeated. They were broken. Centuries of genetic modification had left them unable to adapt to the new reality of human dominance. The Vorthak, once proud warriors, now lived in refugee camps on the edges of their former empire. The crystal cities of the Nexari stood empty, their inhabitants hiding in underground shelters. Admiral, Amy Foster's voice came over the communication system from her flagship in orbit. Long-range sensors are detecting ships in the Proxima sector, unknown configuration. Jake felt a familiar stirring in his chest, the same feeling he had gotten when the first alien ships appeared over Earth. How many ships? Looks like a small scout fleet, Amy replied. Maybe 15 vessels. They're not using any technology we recognize. Phillips was already pulling up tactical displays. New aliens? Probably, Jake said. Signal the fleet. All ships to battle stations. Elena looked at Jake with growing alarm. Jake, what if they're just explorers? What if they don't even know about the war? Then they'll learn quickly, Jake replied. He activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Unknown vessels have entered human space. Prepare for immediate engagement. Wait, Elena said urgently. Jake, listen to yourself. You're talking about attacking beings we've never even communicated with. Jake paused, his hand hovering over the attack authorization control. For a moment, he saw himself as Elena must see him. A human commander ready to destroy anyone who dared to enter territory that hadn't even existed 10 years ago. They're in our galaxy, Jake said finally. That makes them a threat. Our galaxy? Elena stared at him. Jake, this isn't our galaxy. We're the invaders here. We're the ones who came from somewhere else and conquered everything in sight. But Jake was already thinking about ship deployments and weapon systems. The unknown aliens had made the same mistake the hegemony had made. They had entered space that humans now considered theirs. General Rodriguez's voice crackled over the interstellar communication system from his command post in the Centauri sector. Admiral, my scouts report similar unknown ships near the galactic core. Could be part of a larger fleet. Jake felt his strategic instincts taking over. How large? Unknown. Could be thousands of ships for all we know. Phillips was studying sensor data. If they're scouting our defenses, they might be planning an invasion. Jake made his decision. All fleet commanders, implement protocols 7 through 12. I want every human world on maximum alert. If these newcomers want to fight, they'll get one. Elena grabbed Jake's arm. You don't know that they want to fight. What if they're refugees fleeing from some other threat? What if they're just trying to find a place to live in peace? Then they picked the wrong galaxy, Jake replied coldly. Amy Foster's report came in an hour later. Admiral, we've made contact with the unknown fleet. They're calling themselves the Terran Colonial Alliance. Jake froze. Repeat that. Terran Colonial Alliance. They claim to be humans from Earth colonies established over 200 years ago. They say they've been out of contact with Earth since the early 21st century, due to some kind of navigation error. The revelation hit Jake like a physical blow. The unknown aliens weren't aliens at all. They were humans. Humans who had been exploring the galaxy while Earth was being conquered and had finally found their way home. Elena looked at Jake with something that might have been pity. So what now, Admiral? Are you going to attack them too? Jake stood silent for a long moment, staring at the tactical displays that showed human ships preparing to attack other human ships. Around him, his officers waited for orders. In the distance, alien work crews continued clearing rubble under human supervision. Stand down all fleets, Jake said quietly. Cancel the attack protocols. But even as he gave the order, Jake knew the damage was already done. Humanity had spent so many years at war that they had forgotten how to do anything else. They had become the very thing they had once fought against, a galactic empire built on conquest and maintained through fear. Commander Phillips tried to break the uncomfortable silence. The Colonial Alliance is requesting permission to establish contact with Earth. They want to share their exploration data and learn about what happened during their absence. Jake nodded absently. Grant permission, and Phillips? Send a message to all fleet commanders. I want a complete review of our current policies regarding alien populations. Elena looked surprised. Jake, are you thinking about changing our approach? Jake looked out over the conquered city, where human flags flew over buildings built by alien hands. Somewhere in the distance, alien children were learning human languages in schools run by human administrators. It was efficient, orderly, and completely wrong. Dr. Turner was right, Jake said finally. We became the thing we fought against. It's not too late to change, Elena said hopefully. Jake wanted to believe her, but he knew better. Humanity controlled hundreds of worlds and trillions of beings. Human industrial might was spread across thousands of star systems. Human military doctrine was taught in academies on dozens of planets. They had built an empire in less than a decade, and empires were not easy things to dismantle. Maybe, Jake said. But first we need to figure out how to be human again instead of just being conquerors. He looked up at the stars, where human ships patrolled space that had once belonged to other species. The galaxy had chosen to enslave Earth, and humanity had answered with total annihilation. But in destroying their enemies, humans had lost something essential about themselves. The war was over. Humanity had won. Jake just wasn't sure anymore what that victory was worth. In the end, the aliens had been right about one thing. Humans really were dangerous. They just hadn't understood how dangerous humans could be to themselves.